One very important aspect of reserve studies is understanding the simple logic of where these numbers come from. How are these numbers generated that become the reserve study recommendations? So let's take a couple of minutes and go over the numbers, go through the report, and we'll show you exactly where these numbers come from. Here we have a typical inventory page that shows in the main column the individual components that go into the reserve study. Next column shows the unit of measurement and then the number of units. Middle column shows the unit replacement cost. Two important columns are the normal economic life, how long something typically lasts, and the remaining useful life, how much these particular components have left in their useful life. And then the last column is the total replacement cost. And you can see that we may have 2 or we may have 20 pages of different inventory items, and each one shows the same thing. The individual components, unit measurements, unit replacement cost, normal and remaining economic life, and total replacement cost. Now this is very important data, but for most people it's only data. It's not usable information. So Miller Dodson takes this information and publishes it in the form of a calendar. This calendar shows in each year what the expenditures are that are planned for that year. It's not a work list. It doesn't mean that each of these things have to be done in this year. It's simply a projection of when it's going to be prudent to have the funding available for these particular items. You'll see in the bottom corner of each of these calendar years that there is a total for that year. If we look at these different totals as an individual bar graph, we can see that in some years there are very little expenditures, and in some years we have a lot of expenditures. Again, this is very useful information, but if we want to get an idea of what the long-term implications are of the reserves, we look at the cumulative graph. This takes the same data, but it graphs it to show how these expenditures accumulate over a 30-year period. It also graphs against that how much we're currently putting into reserves, and we can see exactly where the reserve fund is going to run out of money. It also shows us the cash flow and the component method, and concentrating on the cash flow method, it says, given the starting balance, how much money do we have to put in each year and never drop below a predetermined minimum balance.